He had the face of an angel. Curly blonde hair, pale skin, clear blue eyes. A choir boy's face that made women want to protect him and would later make a jury struggle to believe what he had done. By the age of 20, Carlos Robledo Puch had murdered 11 people. He shot night watchmen as they slept. He shot a man dead in front of his wife, then turned the gun on her. He fired a bullet into a baby's cradle for no reason anyone has ever been able to explain. And when his own partner grabbed his arm one night, he shot him too, then took a blowtorch to the body to burn away the face. That last act is what caught him. He had forgotten that the dead man was carrying his identity card. His name was Carlos Robledo Puch. Argentina called him El Ángel, the Angel of Death. More than 50 years later, he is still behind bars, the longest-serving prisoner in South America. This is his story, fully, no filter. This is Uncut Cases. Real crimes. No filter. Let's get into it. Carlos Eduardo Robledo Puch was born on January 19, 1952 in Buenos Aires, Argentina. By every outward measure, he came from an ordinary, hard-working family. His father was a technician for General Motors. His mother had emigrated from Germany shortly after the Second World War. They were middle class, they were respectable. As a boy, Carlos was quiet and shy. He studied piano. He learned German from his mother. He grew up supporting River Plate, like millions of other Argentine kids. There was nothing in that picture that pointed to what was coming. But there was another side. By his teens, he was stealing, first from classmates, then from the school itself. In 1967, he was caught taking money from the secretary's office and expelled. A year later, he broke into a workshop and stole a motorcycle, and when the police picked him up, he confessed to more than 14 separate thefts. He was sent to a juvenile reformatory, and it was around this time that he met the person who would change everything, a young man named Jorge Antonio Ibanez. The two became inseparable. People who later studied the case described Robledo Puch's attachment to Ibanez as intense, almost obsessive. Together they stopped stealing for money and started stealing for the feeling, and then they crossed a line most criminals never approach. What makes Robledo Puch different from almost everyone else in this series is what he looked like while he did it. Soft curls, pale skin, clear eyes. People called him angelic, beautiful. The press would name him El Ángel, the angel, precisely because nothing about his face matched what was inside him. That contradiction is the entire reason Argentina has never been able to forget him. In early 1971, Robledo Puch and Ibanez were committing armed robberies across the northern edge of Greater Buenos Aires. Auto shops, nightclubs, supermarkets, car dealerships, places with a safe and a single night watchman. They stole millions of pesos and spent it on luxuries, on looking the part. But the robbery was never really the point. The point was the gun. His first known murder came on May 3, 1971. Just past midnight, he and Ibanez walked into an auto repair shop in Vicente Lopez. Robledo Puch shot the owner dead. Then he turned on the man's wife. He shot her and assaulted her and left her for dead, though she survived. And on his way out with 400,000 pesos in his hands, he saw the couple's 10-month-old daughter asleep in her cradle. He fired at the baby. The bullet missed. That detail, a man who would aim a gun at an infant for no reason at all, is the one thing investigators could never explain away. There was no robbery logic to it. There was only the trigger. 11 days later, he killed again. A nightclub in Olivos. He found 2 watchmen asleep in a back room and shot them both where they lay. 10 days after that, a supermarket. He killed the 61-year-old watchman, then sat down at the crime scene and drank an entire bottle of whiskey with Ibanez to celebrate. Pulling the trigger, one of the journalists who spent years on his case wrote, was his greatest pleasure. Then it got worse because it stopped being only about robberies. On June 13, 1971, Robledo Puch and Ibanez forced a 16-year-old girl into their car at gunpoint off a Buenos Aires highway. They drove her to an empty place. She was sexually assaulted. Then Robledo Puch told her to walk away and not look back, and shot her 5 times. Her name was Virginia Rodriguez. 11 days later, on June 24th, they did almost exactly the same thing to a 22-year-old woman named Ana Maria DiNardo, taken as she left her boyfriend's house, driven to a quiet place, shot in the back. And then, on August 5th, 1971, his partner Ibanez died in a car accident while Robledo Puch was driving. Officially, it was an accident, but there were always rumors that Robledo Puch had killed him and staged it. Because Robledo Puch ended partnerships the way other people end arguments. He found a new accomplice, a man named Hector Somoza, and the killing continued through the end of the year, November 15th, November 17th, November 25th. Watchmen, one after another, shot during break-ins, sometimes when there was nothing even worth stealing. By now, the police understood what they had. The same method, the same suburbs, the same single killer. They just didn't have a name. It ended the way it so often does, with a mistake. On February 3, 1972, Robledo Puch and Somoza broke into a hardware store in Tigre, north of the city. Robledo Puch locked the watchman in a small room, came back minutes later and shot him twice. Then he and Somoza turned to the safe. And then something went wrong between the two of them. Somoza grabbed Robledo Puch, and Robledo Puch, certain he was about to be attacked, drew his gun and shot his own partner dead. That should have been the perfect crime. 2 bodies, no witnesses. To make sure Somoza could never be identified, Robledo Puch took a blowtorch to the dead man's face and hands, burning away his features and his fingerprints. But he forgot one thing. Earlier, he had handed Somoza his own identity card to carry. It was still in the dead man's pocket. You cannot burn the truth off a laminated card, and the name on it was Carlos Robledo Puch. Police went to his family. His family said he had been spending time with a man named Somoza, and on February 4, 1972, one day after his final murder and barely 2 weeks after his 20th birthday, the Angel of Death was arrested. By the age of 20, he had killed 11 people. What followed was almost as strange as the crimes. Robledo Puch's trial did not begin until August 1980. More than 8 years after his arrest, he faced 36 charges, including 11 counts of aggravated murder. In court, he was defiant. He blamed the dead Ibanez for the killings. He called the entire process a Roman circus. A forensic psychiatrist named Osvaldo Raffo evaluated him more than 25 times and concluded what the country already suspected. Robledo Puch was a psychopath and a lasting danger. On November 27, 1980, 3 judges convicted him and handed down the harshest sentence Argentine law allows: life imprisonment, with the added measure of indeterminate detention, meaning he can be held for the rest of his life. His final words to the court were, "I was judged and sentenced beforehand." He has been in prison ever since. He briefly escaped in 1973 and was recaptured within days. Over the decades, he has been offered parole reviews and softer conditions, and has at times refused them, saying he is used to living in prison. More than once, he has asked the courts to simply execute him, even though Argentina has no death penalty. As of this year, Carlos Robledo Puch has spent more than 50 years behind bars, the longest-serving prisoner in South America. Here is what I want to say directly. The thing that made Robledo Puch famous is the contradiction, the angel face that hid a killer. That's why there are books about him, why there's a hit film, El Ángel. Why his curls and his blue eyes are better known than the names of the 11 people he killed. And that is worth sitting with, because it is also the trap. We remember the killer's face. We forget Virginia Rodriguez, 16. Ana Maria DiNardo, 22. The watchmen, men in their 50s and 60s working a night shift for a paycheck. There is also a genuine loose thread, and an honest channel names it. The one victim who survived the very first attack said the man who shot and assaulted her had long hair. That description fit Ibanez, his first partner. Robledo Puch had short, curly hair. To this day, Robledo Puch insists he was a thief, not a murderer, that the killings belonged to a dead man who can no longer be questioned. The courts did not believe him, and the weight of the evidence ran against him. But the ambiguity is real, and pretending otherwise would be its own kind of lie. What is not ambiguous? A 20-year-old left a trail of bodies across Buenos Aires, fired a gun into a baby's cradle, and burned his own partner's face to hide a murder. 50 years later, he asks to die, and the country that turned him into a legend still will not let him out. So what do you think? Was Carlos Robledo Puch a born psychopath? Or was the angel partly a monster the media built? Drop your take in the comments. I read every one.